I'm going to show you how you can troubleshoot your VFD with just 3 voltage measurements. Welcome to MASSO Top Tip. Whether your spindle just stopped working or you've just installed it and it won't run, a few simple voltage measurements will tell you where the problem lies. And knowing where to concentrate your effort is the key to getting up and running quickly. A spindle needs to know 2 things to run. How fast? What direction? How fast is determined by the voltage on pin 1 of the MASSO spindle control. So let's start with that first. Enter a spindle speed of 50% of your spindle's maximum speed and press the spindle clockwise button. Mine's 24,000, so I'll enter 12,000. Take your multimeter and measure the voltage between spindle control pin 1 and one of the black terminals on MASSO. You should see a reading of 5 volts. Now, it's just a quick note here, it's not going to be exactly 5 volts, but it will be close. If the voltage is low, then unplug the spindle control cable from MASSO and test again. If the voltage is now correct, then you have a problem with the VFD or the wiring, as something is dragging the voltage down. If the voltage is still low, check the spindle settings. Make sure you have VFD selected and the spindle speed at 10 volts setting is double your test speed. If you still can't get 5 volts, you may have a damaged spindle control output. I'm going to assume that the voltage you measured was 5 volts, so now I can move on and check the second signal that the spindle needs to work. That's the direction. The test procedure is basically the same whether you're using clockwise or counterclockwise. So I'm going to test with the clockwise. Stop the spindle with the spindle stop button and measure the voltage across the spindle control pins 4 and 5. Put the black meter lead on 4 and the red meter lead on 5. If the voltage reading is negative, then you have pins 4 and 5 reversed and it won't work. You should also see a voltage coming from your VFD. Now, I can't tell you what that will be because each VFD is different, but you can see mine is 23 volts. If yours is lower than it should be, you have a problem. We can first check that the optocoupler is not faulty and dropping the voltage by unplugging the spindle control plug and testing the voltage across pins 4 and 5 on the plug. If it now shows the correct voltage, then you have a problem with the optocoupler in MASSO. But if the voltage remains low, then the problem is the VFD or the cable. If the voltage is what you expect, then press the spindle clockwise button. Measure the voltage across the spindle control pins 4 and 5, and this time it should read less than 0.2 volts. If it does, then the clockwise signal is correct as the optocoupler is turning on, and the problem is with the VFD. If the voltage remains high, then the optocoupler is faulty and needs to be replaced. I'll put a link in the description box below to the MASSO documentation that shows how to identify and replace a faulty optocoupler. To test counterclockwise, make sure the spindle is off and measure the voltage across the spindle control pins 6 and 7. Put the black lead of your meter on 6 and the red lead on 7. Again, you should get a positive reading, and if it's negative, you have the wires reversed. The voltage should be the same as you measured on the clockwise test, and if it's low, unplug the spindle control plug and measure the voltage across pins 6 and 7 on the plug to check the optocoupler. Now, some of you might find it strange that while I'm saying that I'm testing the optocoupler, I'm clearly checking the voltage coming from the VFD. That's because if the optocoupler is faulty or the spindle's just been left turned on, it will drop the voltage. Simply by unplugging it and just measuring the voltage coming directly from the VFD, I'll know that the low voltage is either caused by the optocoupler in MASSO or a problem with the VFD or its wiring. Now, fortunately, there's nothing wrong with either the VFD, its wiring, or my optocoupler, so let's press on. I turn the spindle on using the counterclockwise button, and the voltage should drop to less than 0.2 volts. The optocoupler is basically a polarity conscious switch, which is why the polarity of the voltage from the VFD is so important. When turned off, the optocoupler is an open circuit and the voltage reading will be the VFD voltage. But when it turns on, the optocoupler is almost a short circuit and the voltage drops to about 0.2 volts. If any of your measurements don't give the right results, you'll know immediately where the problem is, if it's MASSO or the VFD, and you'll be able to focus your efforts on that aspect. If all the voltage measurements are correct and the spindle still doesn't turn on or work correctly, then the VFD or spindle is not correctly configured or is faulty. And that's it. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, please click the subscribe button and ring that bell for notification of all new Top Tip videos. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next MASSO Top Tip. Cheers!